Hakadosh Boker Or, Masechet Nazir Daf Amud Aleph 26a1. We were just speaking about the entire concept that we asked the two lekar. Are you going to tell me now that there was no other cases that the ma'otz to mean they go to a nedava and it's only by a case of a nazir because it's halakha Moshe Misinai? We asked it's the same thing. On the top, if they separated the money for their kin. If they wanted to bring the money as a chata be'ema, they could, as an olah be'ema, they could. But if one of the chayvei kinin died, and he has money which is satum. Remember, satum means that they did not designate it for a specific korban. He put it in the va, could go to a nedava. So you see from here, it's not just the one of the nazir, it's everyone. Every one of the cases of the kinim. So answers the Gemara, Tana Nazir v'chayvei kinim damule. You're right. It's the Nazir and everybody else also, which is going to be compared to it as well. And this comes to exclude that which we learned in a braita. Somebody that's obligated a hatat. And he says, Hare alai ola. So it comes out now, he says, it's going to be for me an olah, which means he obligates himself. Now he's obligated a hatat. And an olah says, Hare alai olah. That he separates money. And he says, Hare elu lechovati. This is for my obligation. Right? If he wants to bring with it now a chata be'ema, he cannot bring it. Olat be'ema lo yavi. If he wants to bring an olat be'ema, he cannot bring. We're in Kavav Amud Aleph 26a. Met vayula ma'otz tumim. If he dies and now he has ma'otz tumim, yilchud Yamamelech. You're going to bring him to Yamamelech. What is Yamamelech? You throw the money to Yamamelech. You remember, whenever you have a chatat or whatever it is, you throw the money to Yamamelech because you can't benefit from it. So what do? You take the money, you throw it in the Yamamelech, in the salt sea. Okay? So you see from here.
Very salty. Very salty.
Yes.
If we dive in the
To mean this money, which is satum. Remember, satum just means that you do not designate it for a specific korban. You have a chatat and olah. Both of them are two completely separate objects. And because the chatat comes to be limechaper on a sin, to atone on sin, and the olah is coming because of his neder that he said, Hare alai olah. So therefore, we don't say this halacha, right? Because here we're saying that you're going to throw the money in the Yamamelech. So now the Gemara is going to explain another difference. And it says like this. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi comes and he says, Hade amarta, that which you said, mefurashin lo, that which you said that we have money, which is going to be designated, mefurashin lo, we do not go and throw it to, right? You can't just use it as a nedava, that has to be thrown to Yamamelech. Lo tema, don't come and say, de amar elu lechatati ve'elu leloti, that this is going to be for the chatat, and this is going to be for the olah, ve'elu lishlamai, and this is going to be for the shlamim, ela afilu amar, but even if a person is going to say, elu lechatati ulolati ulishlamai.
What's the
which
difference?
Means,
it sounds the same.
1 second. Even if a person comes and he says, elu lechatati, this is for my chatat, this is for my olah, this is for my dasham, and therefore you went and you designated for each one a certain amount of money. You said $100 for my chatat, $100 for my dasham, $100, right? For the shlamim, sorry, not the dasham, right? And $100 for the olah. But even if he said, elu lechatati ulolati ulishlamai, this money is for my chatat, olah, and my shlamim, which means it's still considered meforashim. Because once you mention the name of the korbanot,
That's it.
even though you didn't say 100 for my shlamim and 100 for my chatat and 100 for my dasham, you said these 300 are for my chatat, dasham, and shlamim. You, it's not. No, we don't care about neder. It's mefurash. It's not satum, meaning it's designated, right? That means even though I didn't say the amount, the value on each one individually, the fact that I said this money is for my chatat, shlamim, and olah, that's called mefurash. It's not called satum. Satum just means I come and I have money, and this is for my korbanot. I didn't say chatat, shlamim, and olah. These are for my korbanot. Obviously, he's a nazir, so he's going to bring chatat, olah, and shlamim, but he doesn't say the words chatat, olah, and shlamim. That's called satum. Satum means that it's like closed off. We don't know, right? It means it's not mefurash. It's not explicit what exactly is the money, right, going to. Okay, even though you didn't miyached it. But there are those that say, Amar Ravashi, Ravashi says, Lo tema, you're not going to say that it's called mefurashim. Ad de amar elu lechatati ulolati v'shamai el amar afilu amar elu lechovati Now we go to the other extreme. The other extreme is, even if you come and you say, this is for my obligation, and you did not mention the names of the korbanot. You just say, this is for my chobah. Now, this is your chobah. You're Nazir. You're obviously obligated in Chatat, Ola, and Shlamim. It's not a neder. This is your obligation. You made yourself into a Nazir. When you finished your Nazirut, this is what you have to bring. The fact that you say, Elu lechovati, this is for my obligation, that's already considered mefurash. It's considered explicit that it's for these things, and therefore it's not considered satum. Remember, the difference between satum and mefurash was?
Communal ola.
Which one?
The communal
yes.
ola.
Okay. So he comes and he says now like this. Amar Rava. Rava comes and he says, Hade Amran, that which we said, Ma'ot Stumini Plulin Dava, right? Im nafla demei chatami benehen, haren kemfurashim. That which we just said, that if you have Ma'ot Stumin, we said that if you have money, which was satum, what are you allowed to do? You could give it as a nedava. You could give it as a present, right? Now, usually you can never give as a present a chatat, a sin offering. Because what, you're giving a sin offering, a present to Hashem? Well, sin offering is an embarrassment. What are you doing exactly? Right? So he comes and he says, Im nafla demei chatat mi benehen, which means that the Nazir came and he first separated, right? For example, Ma'ot Stumin. And then afterwards he came and he separated money for the chatat, right? And he left the rest of the money for his ola and shlamim. Haren kefurashim. So then the rest of the money is like mefurash, because then, right, he says if you can't bring them for a chovah, for the Nazir, for example, let's say he died, so then it also goes to the Yamamelach, okay? And the rest of the money you're going to bring, right? That means the money of the chatat goes to the Yamamelach, and the rest of the money you're going to divide it between the half for the ola and half for the shlamim. Now, even though they're mouths to mean, we don't say this halacha that it goes to a nedava, right? This it says it's only because you have the demei chatat which is mixed up into it. Here, you already separated the demei chatat. Once you separated, right? Once you separated the demei chatat, the money of the chatat, now you could. Kavav Amubet 26b. So says the Gemara 26b. Kavav Amubet Tanya Kavatid Rava. We actually have a proof in accordance to Rava, right? What do we have a proof in accordance to Rava? Yeah. So Tanya Kavatid Rava. We're on the first line. Kavav Amubet 26b. Tanya Kavatid Rava. We learned in accordance to Rava. Elu lechatati, a Nazir that he comes and he says, this money is for my chatat. Okay? Ve'ashar, and all the rest of the money is l'shar nezirutai, it's for the rest. Now, what's the rest? Obviously, the ola and the shlamim, right? Because that's the only thing which is left over. There's 3 korbanot. He already said, this is for my chatat, and now he's separated. The rest is going to be for the ola and the shlamim. And then the guy dies. The main chatat yilchul yamamelach. Remember, a chatat shemetu ba'alei halacha l'Moshe Sinai. A chatat that the owners died. Halacha l'Moshe Sinai is you have to throw the money away in Yamamelech. You can't use that money for anything else. You can't bring it as a present or anything else. So therefore, the value of the chatat you throw it to Yamamelech. Ve'ashad, and the rest of the money, yavi chetzio leolav chetzio leShlamim. Right, you're going to bring half of it for an olav, burnt offering, and half of it is shlamim as a peace offering. U'moalim bekula. Now there's going to be me'ilah in everything. Remember, me'ilah means it's consecrated towards the Bet HaMikdash, and therefore you're not allowed to benefit from it. And if you do benefit from it, you have to bring a korban me'ilah. You have to pay back the amount plus add a chomesh. Chomesh is a fifth. Okay. Now ve'en moalim b'miksatan. However, though, if you only benefit in a little bit of the money, there's no din me'ilah, which means you're only going to be chayav the me'ilah and everything, right? If you actually benefited from it, right? But remember, if you're benefiting from the entire thing. Okay, with all the money which is left over. Okay, but if it's going to be only part of the money, no. Right now, the reason why is because at the end of the day, the shlamim is kadashim kalim, and kadashim kalim, which is light holiness. Right, we said in the morning in the korbanot, there's kachek kadashim and kadashim kalim. There's the holy of holy ones. You know, the olah, chatat, and other one, and then you have the shlamim, the chor, maaser. Right, all these things which are shlamim. Right, these are all kachek kalim. Right, kadashim kalim. So therefore, all there's not going to be milah in all of these things. Okay, fine. Now it says over here like this: Elu leolati ve'ashalisha neziruti. He comes and he says, if a person comes and he says, this is for my olah, and the rest is for everything else. So now, obviously, what's the rest? Chatat and shlamim. Remember, there's only 3 korbanot per an olah. Yeah, 3 of them. Right? What are the 3? The 3 are chatat, olah, and shlamim. So what are you going to do? So he says, so the money of olah, you're going to bring it as olah, and you're going to bring it. Rashad and the rest, it's going to go to a nedava. But there's going to be Again, because since there's mi'ilah and a chatat, so therefore it's going to be a mi'ilah. But, right, because again, you took out the olah. Now, in the chatat and the shlamim, in the chatat there is mi'ilah, in the shlamim there's no mi'ilah. Okay, so therefore, one more time, if he says this is for my olah and the rest is for my nizirut, and now the guy dies, so the demi olah you could bring, and there's mi'ilah and everything, but all the rest goes to a nedava. Okay, now he comes and he says there's mi'ilah because of the chatat, but there's no mi'ilah in part of it because the shlamim does not have mi'ilah. So Amar Rav says in the name of Rav, Lo Shanu, what are we talking about? Ela ma'ot, that's only going to be money. Meaning here we're always talking about the money. It's ma'ot stumin. So therefore you cannot bring it as a chovat nazir, but we're talking about ma'ot. Aval behema. But if you came and you already consecrated the animal, which means that it's not right in a case where it's not going to be kasher to bring it as a korban nazir, right? So he comes and he says, and now you have to wait until it gets a blemish, and then you have to redeem it. So then harei mefureshet. So then it's going to be considered that this is mefureshet, right? Like a chatat mefureshet, and therefore if the owners die, what are you supposed to do? The money you have to take to Yam HaMelech. And the reason why is halachal Moshe Misinai ma'ot stumin yiplulim deva, right? That means that's only money. Money, which is satum. Remember, satum means that it's not mefurash, designated to which one it's going to. That goes to a nedava. But if it's an animal mamash, and right, he just says these animals are for my korbanot, and now we're talking about animals. We're not talking about money. That does not go as a nedava. Okay? So Amr of Nachman says of Nachman, Hade Amri, that which we just said, behema hareikum furash, that which we just said, that an animal is not like money. We said, if it's money, which is satum, money which is satum just means this money is a korban or whatever it is, right? Or this money is going to be from a nizirut. But I didn't say, right, which one is which. I didn't actually explain it, right? So that's only by ma'ot stumin. That goes to a nedava. But if it's going to be behemot, no, animals don't go. So it says over here, that's only going to be an animal which was good, right? Which means that it's not going to be redeemed, right, until you actually have a blemish, and therefore it's not like money. Aval balat mum. But what happens if you have an animal that already has a blemish, and therefore we know that if it already has a blemish, you're going to have to redeem it, and then you're going to have to segregate another one. Harei stuma. So then it's like the money which is stuma. So one more time, money which is satum, it goes to as a nidava. If the guy dies, it goes to a nidava. Only money which is satum. Money which is mefurash means designated. This money was supposed to be for chatat, this one's for nasham, I keep on saying nasham. Chatat, olah, and shlamim, right? It's different halacha.
A blemished animal is considered money.
So
here.
The blemished animal is considered money. Why is it considered money? Because since I cannot, not only I have to sell it, I cannot bring it the way that it is. So it's considered like money. If it's a good animal, so therefore I could bring the animal itself. So now the guy died. So since the guy died, I can't bring the animal. So therefore, I'm going to wait until it gets blemished. Once it gets a blemish, and I come and I start doing. So then that's no, because that means the animal is not money. Okay, because the animal could be brought on its own. But if it's already has a blemish, so then it's like money, and therefore it's like the money that we mentioned until now. Aval, however, though, naska lo. But if a person came and he consecrated, a nazir came and he consecrated naska, which is basically going to be what? Which is basically going to be a chatichat kesef. It's going to be a piece of silver. It's not, like stuma. Why? Because chatichat kesef, right? It's not normal to sell for money, but rather you buy with it, right? So therefore he comes and he says, so since everyone knows the value, right, and they use it just like you use as a coin, meaning you don't sell it for money. That in itself is currency. Okay. Nowadays, you want to buy gold, you buy gold, and then but it's not that you could go to a store and use gold.
Like that. They're saying
right?
Exactly opposite to what you're saying.
But when we're talking about a piece of silver, right? It's not like stuma. Why? Because in the olden days, you could take a piece of silver, right? And it's not that you're selling the silver for money. You're actually using that as a currency. That is the currency. It's not like it's a commodity, right? And so on and so forth. That in itself is going to be, right, is a currency in itself. Okay?
What do you do with it?
Which one?
What do you do with it?
So since it's a commodity in it, since it's a currency in itself, so therefore it's like it's not considered. That's what he says over here. The chatichat, it's not like stuma. It's like mefureshet. It's like something which is 100%. How do you call this? It's designated. Right? Why? Because he wants to say that since you cannot sell it for money, right? It's not considered ma'ot stumin. It's like an animal. Yeah, well, it's like an animal. It's not like ma'ot stumin. It's not like money. Okay? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, no, afilu naska. Even a piece of silver is considered ma'ot stumin, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, you could still buy things, right? But he says, however, though, aval svar shel korot, but if you've got a pile of beams, right? Even though they're ready for building, you understand? Like, they just came from Home Depot, they're all organized, everything's there. There it's not like ma'ot stumin. And therefore, if the guy dies, it doesn't go as an idava because you can't sell immediately. So therefore, it's going to be like the animal. It's not ma'ot stumin. Remember, we're always trying to find out, is it considered like the money, which is satum, which you could give as an idava or not? So Elmaleh Rishimi Barashi Lera Papa says Rishimi Barashi Papa, my time on what's reasoning of the rabbis, right? Which was basically Rav Nachman and Rav Nachman Yitzchak Damli, that they said ma'ot velo behema, that it has to be specifically money and not an animal, right? Or we said ma'ot velo naska, has to be money and not a piece of silver, or ma'ot velo svara, or money and not beans, right? So he says ela me'ata ma'ot velo ofot. Maybe I'm going to say that the same halacha applies with money and not birds. What does that mean? Imagine right now the person that consecrated, right? Somebody he's obligated, let's say, a zugofot for a chatat or let's say a zav. A zav, right, which is a meal that has, right, emissions, right, that he has, right, with a dead organ, right? So it's not the normal case of a, seminal discharge. Okay, so he's a zav, sickness. And therefore he has to bring an ulah and a chatat of birds. Again. Now what happens is he consecrated the birds and then he dies. So therefore it shouldn't be like ma'ot stumin. He shouldn't bring as an indava. Right? Why? Because birds is not going to be money. Right? It should be like an animal, no? So he says, if you're going to say, yes, achinami, it's true. Elahada amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, ena kirim parshot, elai bi lekichat be'alim, or bi yisiyat kohen. He says, do you know that according to Shitat Rav Chasta, the kinim, they don't become mefureshet. There's a ken stuma and ken mefureshet. Ken stuma just means you got two birds, and now you have to decide which bird is the olah and which bird is the burnt offering, and which one's the chatat, the sin offering, right? But there's a ken, right, which is stuma. Stuma just means you don't know anything which one's which. You have two of them for sure. One's an olah, and one's a chatat, but you just didn't designate it yet. So he says the ken does not become a ken mefureshet, which means designated, unless it's going to be when the owners, when they buy it, and he says this one's going to be a chatat and this one's going to be an asham, or that the kohen is going to make it that way. Meaning that when they're going to come, they're going to separate it, it doesn't become mefureshet unless they actually, the ba'alim say it at the time of the kniyah, meaning at the time when they're purchasing it, okay? But if they didn't do it, it's still going to be considered stuma, or when the kohen himself is bringing the birds. And now he comes and he says, this one's an olah, or this one's a chatat. So now why is it that way? Why is it going to be considered kem mefureshet only through a kohen? Hama'ot gminin la. He says the halacha of the ma'ot stumot is davka ma'ot and not ofot. So therefore, why do you say now that it's not going to come out? These ofot are not considered stumim, but rather mefurashim. One second. Right? And it's ki'ilu that they got mixed together, right? That basically only the kohen is the one that can take it out. It comes out that stumim is also said by birds. And therefore, anything else also that's not money. So why did you say that? Which means like this. We just had three rabbis. Right, the three rabbis was Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. All three of them told you, right? Each one told you a different halacha. Ma'ot, right? Velo behemot. It's only davka ma'ot, money, which is considered satum, that it goes into nidava, not an animal. Ma'ot, right? Velo naska. What does that mean? Not a piece of silver. Ma'ot velo, the third one, the svar shel korot, right? Not the beams. So it has to be beams. Beams are pieces of wood.
The center of wood beam.
But they use
big, huge beam.
Huh? Use it for building.
Yes, I know, but
use it for building. No, so you brought these beams, right? Now, when you came and you actually brought these beams, right? So now what happens is this considered that you brought money, or is it towards you're bringing this in order to purchase, right? You're bringing this in order to purchase your animals for the Nazir, right? In the olden days, it wasn't just everything was cash, right? I have fruits. I'm a farmer.
People bartered.
So therefore, exactly, they came and I'm going to bring fruits, and now I'm going to buy with these fruits an animal. right? It's not everything cash. I don't have cash on it. It's not everything cash. So therefore, it would come. I would come and I make I don't know what, whatever the case is. Yes, so they brought beams, and now I'm going to. So therefore, it says money and not animals, money and not beams, money and not a piece of silver, mamash silver. No. So therefore, the Gemara says it has to be davka, specifically money, and money is the only case where ma'ot to mean they go to a nedava. Everything else no, but it's not money. So says the Gemara, what about birds? Are birds money? Are birds animals? Right? Or like animals, or like the beams, or like everything else, like the silver. So the Gemara says, obviously, I would have said probably that they're like animals. But then I have a question. There's a Mishnah. The Mishnah speaks about ken mefureshet and ken stuma. Ken stuma.
What's Ken?
Ken is the birds. The birds. Yesterday we learned it. Right? It's a pair of birds because kan, right? Right? When we say, right, when you when you find the one bird and then you're going to shoo away, right, the mother bird and all that, it's called kan sipor. Ken, right? Yes, that's a nest, the nest, right? But the ken in itself is a group of birds. What does it mean, the group of birds? Right, the two birds together, anola and a chata. That's the two group of birds. So therefore, says the Gemara, right? He comes and he says, right, let's follow. Says when you have right now, right, these two birds, I will find out what are they exactly. So says the Gemara, this is really called a ken situma. How do you make it, which means a ken, which I didn't designate which one's which? How do you make it a ken mefureshet? How do you make it designated? Either the purchaser, meaning the owner, when he buys it, meaning when he buys these two birds, he says this bird is for an olah and this bird a chatat. If it wasn't done by the owner at the time of purchasing it, it's done by the kohen when he brings it. So if it's going to be done by the kohen when he brings it, the Gemara is asking, but why? At the end of the day, it shouldn't work at that, because we only said money and not birds. Meaning the birds should not be considered that it's going to be something that we said that it's going to be considered satum. We said that if this is considered satum, satum just means not designated. We said money which is not designated goes as an edava. If it's designated, that's mefurash. Mefurash means explicit in literal terms. If it's explicit, it means that I designate, I have exactly what for what. It does not go to an edava. Okay, so now 1 second, right? When we're coming and we're talking about this case, how do you make the birds designated or not designated? We said it all depended on who? On the Kohen. Again, obviously on the owners at the beginning, but if the owners did not do it at the beginning when they purchased it, it's the Kohen when he's bringing it. So the Gemara says, why do you say that it becomes mefureshet through a Kohen? Hamaot gemirin. The halacha is, right? The halacha is that ma'ot to mean are going to be accepted only with ma'ot and not with ofot. And therefore, ma'ot is money and not with birds. So it comes out the ofot are not, the birds are not considered stumim. They're not considered not designated, but rather explicit. And it's keilu that the money got mixed up between anola and achatat, between the burnt offering and the sin offering, right? That the kohen cannot come and start dividing it. So therefore, it comes out that this halakha of satum, is also by a bird. Meaning birds are also considered not designated. They're considered satum. Now you just told me that it's only money and not animals. I thought you just told me that birds are animals. And now you tell me, no, the birds are like money. So that's the Gemara's question. That the birds are going to be like money and not like, right? And not like what? And not like the animals.
What is satum?
And satum means not designated, right? Concealed. Satum means closed. Closed means I don't have, meaning I have money and I say this money is for korbanot, but what's for what? I don't know. It's like hidden. It's like closed. I don't know. It's not explicit. Mefurash. What's Shema Mefurash? The explicit name of God. What is satum? Right? Anything with sotem, close, to close. Right? So therefore it's closed.
We can give the right to the Kohen also on money.